Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me for a mid-June garden tour. So let's go. You can see that the dianthus towards the front of this bed is still continuing to be in its glory. Within a few weeks, it's going to start dying back a little bit. At that point, I will be cutting it back to give it its second flush of blooms. And I recently planted a bunch of annuals in this bed. We have some geraniums in here, and we also have stock, and there are yellow snapdragons. The Veronica is just starting to bud up and will be blooming within a few weeks. The grass continues to get taller, and over here we have gay feather or liatris, and that also is just starting to bud up. I have a tall phlox over here. Here we have globe thistle. That's going to be a really pretty blue color. This peony over here did not do so well. I transplanted it in the spring. It should be fine for next year though. I can't wait to show you what this Joe Pye weed looks like. It's going to get taller and the pollinators are going to love it once it's blooming late summer. This peony over here is looking so pretty, and it still has quite a few buds on it. Down over here I have a couple of other different colored dianthus. I like this purple color, and then there's a dark red as well. I repeat that pattern on this side of this garden. And check out the blossom on this lupin. It was just a seedling last year, and now it's become a nice mature plant. The placement might not be optimal in my garden, but I'm definitely going to enjoy the bloom on it. On this baptisia, it's starting to go to seed. And doesn't it look like the pea pods that you would have in your vegetable garden? I'll be harvesting the seeds from this plant, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm doing that. And on the inside of this flower bed, there's more geranium, there's more stalk, and the yellow color that you see is a snapdragon. Everything's filling out really nicely in this garden. I'm very pleased with it. Hidden under this grass is a very pretty peony. And right next to this flower bed is one of the two pots that we put together, as well as this pot up over here. Look how big the Dusty Miller is getting. I love the red, white, and blue, just in time for our Independence Day that's coming up in a few weeks. This is also right next to my side walkway bed, and I refer to this as the old arbor vitae bed. Everything's looking really nice and filling in. We recently planted some blue pansies as well as some coleus in this bed, and things are really starting to pop. I just love the alyssum as well as the lobelia. It continues to be a rock star in this garden. We put this pot together, and I wanted to point out a few things about it. The lettuce is starting to bolt, so I will be pulling that out, and I'll be replacing it with something else. I'm not really sure what at this point. And the chives have looked beautiful, but they are definitely starting to get a little bit leggy. So I'm going to be giving them a haircut. And what that will do is still send up new shoots and make this pot beautiful again with its thriller effect. The pansies are still thriving. Our weather has been generally cool, probably 70s, maybe low 80s if we're lucky. So I'm going to keep the pansies in here, but I definitely need to deadhead them. So a little bit of maintenance work on this pot, and the pot should bounce right back. The window boxes have looked beautiful. The only maintenance I'm going to do to them is I'm going to give the chives a trim so that they can bounce right back. And I'm also going to trim back the alyssum so that it looks a little bit fresher. I love how long the clematis blooms for. There's only a few blossoms left on it, but I wanted to show you what the seed pod looks like after the clematis goes by. I think it's so pretty. And towards the back of this bed, we have over here a hydrangea. I don't see buds on it yet, but eventually that will be blooming for us. These poor guys are flopping over, but look how pretty the blossom is on this peony. Here are some more. The funny thing is, these peonies have cages under them. Clearly the cages need to be taller. Towards the front of this bed, the big root geranium is just starting to go by, but the leaves still look really pretty. And in this bed towards the front, we have a whole bunch of the Stella d'Oro daylilies. They're all budded up. I'm going to show you from a high level everything that's blooming, but then we'll go in for a closer look at plants that are blooming in this bed. Look how pretty the fringed bleeding heart is. And over here is a peony that's just starting to go by with its pink color. And next to it is a very pretty, I'd call it a light yellow for the inside of the peony, and then the outside is more of a white. So beautiful, especially with the water droplets on it. And this daylily has a blossom that has started to bloom. Really pretty. I wanted to show you how beautiful this peony is with its double colors. I've really been enjoying this particular peony. And right next to it are the oxeye Shasta daisies. This peony has been so pretty. The inside of it is very interesting. Let me take you in for a closer look and see if we can look at it. So I'm just opening this peony up from the center here, and I want you to see just how beautiful it looks. The bleeding heart plant is still blooming. For reference, I wanted to show you just how large this bleeding heart plant is. It clearly is loving its life in this particular area. Here's a really pretty peony. It has like a light pink on the outside, and the inside also has a little bit of pink. Budded up over here is a purple coneflower, or echinacea. The peonies are starting to go by, but I really enjoyed them. And then there are some that are still going to put on a little bit of a show. That's a really pretty one. I love it. I will be deadheading my peonies because I want them to put their energy into the roots for next year. But I wanted to show you what it looks like after a peony goes by. The seed pod is so beautiful. Here's a pretty peony. I'm going to show you the inside of it. They'll be opening up soon. It's still early in the morning. They're all just going by. But I really, really, really have enjoyed my peonies this year. I don't even want to cut them. I just want them to look pretty out here. I'd love to know which one is your favorite of all the ones that you see in this video. Lots of different colors here. Here's another peony that has kind of like a pinkish red center to it. Even though it's going by, very pretty. This one here is budded up. I love this color, especially next to the yellow daylily. And some of my hydrangeas are just starting to bud up. Here are some more buds on this hydrangea. And my hydrangeas over here are just starting to bud up to put on a pretty show. Even though they're flopped over, they're still beautiful to me. Love them, so pretty. These strawberries are setting off their runners, and I'm going to take full advantage of that. Once they start, here's a plant right here actually. So once it starts rooting itself, I'm going to remove it from its mother plant, and I'm going to move it to different parts of my bed. I'll show you the process for doing that. Basically creating free strawberry plants. And check out, the chipmunks haven't found this one yet. Strawberries are just starting. In here we have blueberry plants as well in the center, as well as strawberry plants and weeds. And they're budded up, but they're not quite ready yet. You can see there's a small strawberry. And these are the tinier types of strawberries. And we have some blueberries. I'm going to have to eat those before the birds get to them. But they're not ready yet. In this raised bed, we have alyssum as well as stalk. And I recently did a video showing you where I'm removing the ranunculus corms. Now I have opportunity to plant lots of annuals in here. And here's the second bed where I planted the alyssum as well as the stalk and then removed the ranunculus. I know I started a lot of annuals this year. I admit it. We planted this container together in a previous video, and I love the colors. I just think it looks very pretty. We have the geranium in the center and alyssum on the outside of it. I thought it would be fun to give you a tour of my hosta bed. Usually I just show you from a very far distance the hosta, but there are a lot of different colors, sizes, varieties in this bed. I don't know the names of all these hosta, I'll be honest with you, but I just thought that they look really pretty and I wanted you to see them a little bit close up today. And here's the other side of the hosta bed. I really try hard to move the hosta around so that we have a good amount of variation going on in the bed. I'm trying really hard not to divide the hosta anymore this year. And if I do, it might just be one or two pieces that are really large. But otherwise, I really want the hosta bed to just fill in the best that it can. If you'll remember, we put this hay rack planter together, and I really think it's looking pretty and filling in already, even though it's only been up for about a week. The hanging baskets still look good and fresh. I will be doing maintenance work on them, deadheading all the pansies as well as the alyssum. Usually this time of year, I'm changing out my hanging baskets and putting in some sort of a summer type of flower, taking out the spring flowers. But since they look so pretty, I'm just going to leave them. And down here at the base of this tree, we have a bunch of hosta and some heuchera. I just think it looks very nice. And around the corner, tucked in the tree, is a viola. I think it just looks very magical, tucked into the tree like that. And here's some more of the hosta around this tree. We recently weeded this bed and moved around some plants, as well as planted some annuals. I just wanted you to look at this particular sedum. It looks so pretty. I love the color of the flowers. They really pop in this bed. Everything's looking nice and tidy and clean. And check out the window boxes just above this bed. I can't get enough of the alyssum. I just think it's so pretty. And here's a container pot that we also put together in a previous video. At the base of the hosta bed are a bunch of pulmonaria or lungwort, and they've gone by in terms of their blossom, but you can see their spotted foliage still looks so pretty this time of year. We have a rust-colored heuchera, and in the sun it doesn't look as pretty, but when it's in the shade, I just think it looks so nice to have this red color in here. And then we also have a white dianthus, which gives this darker shady area a pop of color. And I just started adding pulmonaria towards the front of this bed. We also have over here a coral bell or a heuchera, which I think adds a nice pink color to this flower bed, and lots of hosta around it. Over here is a nice purple columbine, and it's just starting to go by. I'm going to let it go to seed, and I'm going to scatter its seeds all around because I definitely want bigger clumps of these in this bed. And right behind it over here is the foam flower. We have the bloodroot. These are the big leaves over here, and they are starting to turn yellow. So when I do come in here and weed this bed, I'm going to cut these right back. I love the color of this blue hosta, and you can see it's just sending out a blossom right now, which is very pretty. And right next to it is the Stella d'Oro daylily. I don't believe this peony has ever bloomed out in this shady section before, so I was really surprised to see that it had blossoms on it. And at the base of it are more Stella d'Oro daylilies, surrounded by hosta. Over here is a stachys or a betony, and I have a lot of these all over my yard, and you can see they're just budded up. So for our next garden tour, hopefully I'll show you them blooming. I winter sowed these plants 2 years ago, and you can see that it is just budding up. It's called the pincushion flower. Hopefully by the next tour it will be blooming. And then over here, look how pretty this is. We have a stilbe. I have quite a bit of astilbe in this bed. And actually, now that I think of it, a lot of the plants that I'm showing you out in this bed are repeating. So I'm just pointing to a few examples here and there, but just know that many of these plants repeat throughout this bed. Here are some other plants that I winter sowed a few years ago, and I love the color of this dianthus. There's also a red dianthus over here, and you can see that there's a couple of taller dianthus here. I have no idea what color they are, so we'll be finding out together when it blooms. And over here are some lupin that I winter sowed a couple of years ago. I don't believe they're going to bloom this year, but we'll see. Here's a big patch of that stachys or that betony that's all budded up. And right in front of it is a bachelor's button that dropped its seeds from last year and is coming up. Back here, we have another astilbe. It looks to be a red color. This big patch right here is bee balm. It's very shady here. This section does get some sun in the afternoon, but believe it or not, the bee balm does very well here, and it does bloom and look very pretty with its nice red colors. Over here is a penstemon, and that's looking very pretty. I like the white in the shady spot. And we have a fringed bleeding heart and another fringed bleeding heart over here that are still blooming. They were blooming in our last tour as well. Look how beautiful the lamium looks. I just think it's so pretty, and I love its blossom. but I equally love the variegated foliage on this plant. And check it out next to the red heuchera that's right near it. The clematis is just starting to go by. And at the base of the clematis, we have a cranesbill geranium. And it's in its glory. It's looking really pretty right now. The beauty bush is just starting to go by, but it's been so nice to see it blooming. This was the first year it's blossomed for me. It didn't put on a huge show, but it put on a show nevertheless. And down over here is more astilbe that's budded up. We got lots of astilbe. Since I consider my yard much of a shaded woodland garden, I definitely take advantage of it and have lots of astilbe. As we go past the path here, I've just started weeding this section of the bed, and it's looking good so far. There are plants that have gone by, like the creeping phlox, and then there are plants that have yet to bloom, like the Stellodoro daylilies and the fall asters. I thought I had dug out all of my spiderwort. If you have spiderwort, you probably know you never really get rid of it. It does look pretty though, I have to admit. Tucked in at the base of this tree is a type of spurge or euphorbia, which I think looks really pretty. And you can see it's budded up. As we head down this way, this is an area that I recently worked on, and I did post a video showing you how I was putting the creeping jenny down at the base of the blue fescue. I'm really pleased with how this project came out. And just past this area, we're going to stop and move on to another area. We have a pink peony tucked in this little section here. And then there are some beautiful purple bellflower. I just think they're gorgeous. And what I love about them is that they're so versatile. They bloom well in the sun, they do well in the shade. I will definitely be dividing and moving that all around my yard. And what I also love about them is that they bloom pretty much late spring through the summer. Can't go wrong with a plant like that. And we also have the oxeye daisy that's blooming. This is a big section of weeds in this area here, and I will be working on this, or shall I say we will be working on this. I'll be sure to show you the progress on this section once I tackle it. We recently weeded this area and found lots of hidden treasures, also known as hidden perennial plants in this flower bed. And I can't help but walk out here almost every night and enjoy the progress that we made on reclaiming this space. And when I weeded this bed, if you'll recall, I put a whole bunch of heuchera towards the front of this bed. I also tucked in some hosta at the base of the shrub. And the heuchera is really going to fill in. By next year, you'll see it will have probably doubled in size. Seems to grow pretty fast, which is nice. And there's some more of the purple bellflower as well as the yellow evening primrose. So pretty. This patch of peonies right here came from my parents' house in Massachusetts, and this is one of the peonies. These have never bloomed for me, so I was so happy to see this one blooming, and you can see that these have gone by, and this one here has a bud on it. And if I keep moving backwards, and back here is a pink peony. That's where peonies start that came from my mother-in-law's house. It's so nice to have these plants from my family's homes. This is my raised vegetable garden in my backyard, and towards the back of it are the peas. And what I want to show you is finally the peas are starting to blossom. Nothing better than a fresh pea from your own garden. Over here we have cucumbers at the base of this trellis, and they've all come up, which is very exciting. We have some lettuce towards the front here, and then we have bush green beans that are all coming up. There's asparagus in the center of the bed, and that's just, it's been tied up and will be harvested again next spring. I still have lots of onions that I have not planted, but they are getting bigger in the pots. And then my grapevine is kind of out of control. I really need to get this put on a different type of trellising system. I want to take you in though for a closer look because there are grapes in here that are just starting to show. Check it out. Lots of grapes. This is what I refer to as my rose garden, and it's where I used to have my kids' above ground pool. I really am enjoying this garden. I'll take you in for a closer look, but we recently did a video on this where I planted some annuals and popped them in here for some late summer color. Everything's budded up and ready to burst with color in this bed. A few of these roses came from my mother-in-law's house, and then many of them I ended up just buying them as I'd see them on clearance at different stores. I don't know the varieties of all my roses, but I do know this one because the tag is still on it. It's called the Peach Drift. It really is so beautiful, and it's just full of buds. And here's a beautiful yellow rose, and there are buds on it, there are blossoms on it, and then there are flowers that are just starting to go by. Here's a beautiful pink rose. Check out, it's either the dew from the morning or when the irrigation ran on the roses, but nevertheless, look how beautiful the water looks on the rose petals. Here is one of the many knockout roses that I got from my mother-in-law's house. A few buds on it and a few blossoms as well. This pretty pink rose is actually from cuttings that I took from my sister-in-law's garden. And I was very happy to be able to take cuttings and root them. It was actually an easy process. I hope to do that again in another video, and I can show you how I do that. Check out the blossoms on this really pretty rose bush. They're like a creamy white color. And this is one of the recent rose bushes that I got probably about a year ago on clearance. And here's another knockout rose bush. You can see all the reddish colored new growth at the top, and that's all going to be budding up. And another rose. Not quite sure if it's a salmon pink or more of a red. We'll have to wait and see. We planted these annuals together. They're still small, but they're going to take off. Here's a coleus. Over here is an ageratum. Over here are plants that came from seed. They're called bidens. They're a yellow color, and I have these seedlings all around this bed. Over here are some perennials that we planted. This is a coreopsis. And over here are some Shasta daisies. And towards the center are annuals, and those are called salvia. They're purple colored and really pretty. Since we weeded this open space here, you know that I'm tempted to start planting in this area. That might be one of my upcoming projects. We'll see. As we continue down this way, notice the heuchera towards the front of the bed, all the different colors. And then right behind the heuchera, we have lots of hosta, and there's Jacob's ladder. There are foam flowers, lots of plants tucked into this bed out here. And if we keep on going, you see the sea of heuchera and lots of hosta, repeating plants. The heuchera are either blooming or they're all budded up now. Last year, this area was weeded really well, and it's still been very much under control, which is nice. And in the spring, we planted some astilbe here, and they're happy. You can see that this one's budded up. And this one over here is budded up as well. As we continue down this way, I wanted to point out this is where I recently planted a bunch of heuchera. So there's a bunch over here. I just think that repeating the heuchera pattern towards the front is wise because there really is quite a bit of shade here. It's a mix of shade and then some sun later in the day. So lots more heuchera. And then the Stella d'Oro daylilies out here are all budded up. And you can see some of them are blooming. The big thing about the daylilies, especially the Stella d'Oro, since they're rebloomers, is being mindful and deadheading them through the summer. If I continue doing that, they'll put on a good show for me. This is also where I added more of the heuchera, all towards the front of this bed. Over here we have the moonbeam coreopsis, and it is just budded up. And check out all these Stella d'Oro daylilies that are budded up in here. Lots of color waiting to happen. At the base of this white birch tree, I planted some small size hosta, and within another year or two, they're really going to fill in. And as we continue down this way, the iris have gone by. However, the daylilies are budded up, and they are not the Stella d'Oro, which I have lots of. There are different kinds in here. So we'll have to wait and see once they're blooming. Over here, budded up, is a purple coneflower or echinacea. This area is generally shady. It gets maybe a few hours of sun a day, but this is an experiment, to see how it does. It might flop over, it might not be happy, but I did put it there last year. In the last tour, I did show you this plant, but I want to show you it again. It's the potentilla. I think that's how you pronounce it. From a distance, I have to tell you, from my driveway, I can see this blooming, and it's just such a pretty color from the distance, as well as close up. We're now in the bed next door, and I just want to show you how tall the bloom is on this yucca. I'm 5'4", so you can see it's pretty tall. It really is a pretty blossom. It has a nice white or cream color blossom to it. And my baptisia is just starting to go by. And I want to show you, they look like little peas, the seed heads as it starts to go by. Really pretty. Just look at all the buds on these daylilies. It's a matter of probably a week, and these Stelladoro daylilies are going to put on a fabulous show. This is where I tucked in a bunch of Hosta last year. That's why they're pretty small, but they look good. And then the lady's mantle is now blooming and just looks so pretty in its glory. And right next to the lady's mantle, the purple colored flower, is a spiderwort. I really don't love this plant. However, I will say in this bed, next to the Stelladoro daylilies that are budded up, as well as next to the lady's mantle, I do think the purple color really pops. So I think I am going to add some more spiderwort to this particular bed in my garden. I might have mentioned this before in videos, but I really enjoy the little water droplets that you find on the lady's mantle. It just glistens and looks so pretty. For reference here, we're looking down the driveway. The hanging baskets are still looking good. They just need to be deadheaded. And the plant nursery continues to have plants. I keep moving the plants forward as I'm selling them, and I keep adding more plants to the plant nursery. But it's been a lot of fun meeting a lot of nice people. And you'll notice towards the very back, I put down some black plastic for the simple reason of suppressing weeds. The weeds take over our beds, don't they? And they also take over this nursery bed. And on the left-hand side here, I also have my own personal holding spot for plants that I'm keeping that need to go in my garden. I'm going to show you some of the perennials that I'm planting in my garden, and we're going to go shopping from this area. It'll be fun. Well, even if I haven't gotten them in the ground, we might as well enjoy them. The Dusty Miller with its silvery foliage is looking beautiful. And a lot of my snapdragons are starting to pop with color. These are snapdragons that I collected from seed, these red ones, and they're really pretty. And the dahlias are looking beautiful. Some of them have already gone by and they need to be deadheaded. But look how pretty this yellow one is, as well as the white one next to it. I'm going to be planting these up along my front walkway. I need more color up along the walkway anyway. So this is where a bunch of my dahlias are going to go. And these are all dahlias that I started from seed a few years ago. I saved the tubers, and now I have lots of dahlias. There are just 2 dahlias in here that are the taller variety of dahlias that I got from a friend of mine. And here's one of them. Looks like it's going to be a yellow color. Those are the type that you definitely want to stake. And over here on the top of my rolling cart, this taller one also came from my friend. But the rest of the dahlias at the base of that tall plant are the ones that I started from seed, and then I collected the tubers, and I was able to propagate a bunch of plants from those tubers. And here's a geranium that I bought for the specific reason that I want to overwinter it and create more plants from it. Here at the front walkway, I still need to come out here and do some maintenance work. I haven't gotten to it yet. I need to deadhead and cut back all my pansies as well as those dahlias. And along the front walkway, I have a bunch of annuals I'm going to be popping in here. I also need to go ahead and deadhead the coreopsis. But the Dusty Miller is looking really pretty. And the snapdragons are budded up. Let me show you one that's blooming. Here's one of the snapdragons that's starting to bloom. I love the color of it. And check out the daylilies. They are now just starting to bloom, putting on a great show. And in front of the daylilies, I recently planted some cranesbill geranium that will fill up. But notice the color of the cranesbill geranium towards the front and how it complements nicely with the Stelladoro daylilies. And I want you to notice when you're looking at the daylilies and just past the daylilies into my backyard, just how pretty it looks with all the trees and all the heuchera that are lining the front of that bed. I just love that view. The red, white, and blue in this pot is looking very beautiful. And I will be doing maintenance on this other pot. The big thing is just cutting back the scraggly looking chives. We recently popped in some impatiens in these window boxes. I'm just waiting for them to bulk up and put on some growth. A while back, I made a video that showed you the process of cleaning the pond, dividing some of the mini hosta around the pond. So if you haven't seen that video, be sure to check it out. But everything around the pond is still looking really good. I was noticing the other day, some of the mini hostas still needs to be divided. And I do have some pockets in here that are empty. So I'll definitely be going ahead and doing that and moving the mini hosta around this bed even more. I just love how it keeps this short growth habit around the pond and yet adds interest. And these mini hosta over here are also sending up their blossoms. And this mini hosta over here is budded up and will be blooming very soon. I hope you enjoyed this garden tour. Stay tuned because I have lots more garden tours to do this summer. Until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.